Hello, my name is Selena Saavedra. Today I'm going to be talking about how to use the ADDIE model to design a 3-hour course. The ADDIE model is a 5-phase model that assists instructional designers to create effective learning designs. It's typically a cyclical model, which implies there is a continuous review and improvement that occurs throughout the process. The 5 phases in the ADDIE model are analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. There are several activities that take place with each phase, which we will see here one phase at a time. First, I'd like to tell you about my instructional design project titled Project Management Training for Data Analytics Students. For this project, I found a client, Dr. Shanita Floyd, a current clinical assistant professor in the Department of the Interdisciplinary Program of Analytics and Computational Science at the University of North Texas. Dr. Floyd and her team assessed that organizations around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are searching for data analysts who can also manage and present their own analysis. But there are currently no project management courses being offered at UNT. So the purpose of my instructional design project was to create a 3-hour lesson for data analytics students to learn the basics of project management. The first step in the ADDIE model is analysis. This is the initiating phase where data will be collected and analyzed to understand the needs of the audience, which includes the instructor and the learners. Typically, the phase begins by interviewing anyone involved in the training process. What is the opportunity to create an effective instructional design? There are different types of analysis, such as job analysis, criticality analysis, and task analysis, among others. The purpose is to find out what skills and knowledge may be lacking and what needs to be taught in order to get a better outcome. I kept the analysis simple for my project. I interviewed Dr. Floyd to find out more about the current data analytics students and about what the data science department needed in order to provide them with the instruction they would need to effectively teach the students based on their current understanding of project management. I also interviewed some of the data analytics students to understand what they know about project management and to find out if they were interested in learning more about it. The next step in the ADDIE model is the design phase. In this phase, the design format needs to be generated based on the information we found out about during the analysis phase. What is the best way to deliver this information that will keep the audience engaged and learning? By focusing on a few goals and objectives, the design of the lesson will start coming together. Make sure the goals are clear and relevant and the objectives fit the goals being targeted. An important tip I learned was to create objectives that will deliver behavioral responses from the audience. So don't use phrases like, at the end of this lesson, each student will understand what project management is. We know that's the point of the lesson. So what behaviors will students present that will prove they understand project management? Some objectives for the students in my project were: define project management, describe what value means in Agile methodology, utilize components of project management to produce valuable outcomes in a data analytics project. Then the content of what needs to be instructed is gathered to ensure those objectives can be met. This becomes the design plan. An assessment and evaluation of the design are also created during this phase. What questions need to be asked to find out if the instructional design is effective? Both the students and instructors will tell us if this design was effective when they are able to meet the goals set for them. Next is the development phase. This is where all the work from the analysis and design come together for a final product. This is where all the content of the design is put into context for the audience. We have the who, what, why, and when of our design, and with the development comes the how. The instructors and learners will be provided the focus of their training, and this phase delivers the facilitation that will ensure they have the most effective training experience. An assessment will also be created, this time to assess that the learning audience has actually learned something. I created my assessment for the data analytics students to show their learning through interactive quizzes that were given to the class as a group, and by having the students present an oral presentation of a case study in class to show their comprehension and knowledge of project management. To make the instructional design beneficial to the instructor and the students, I developed both a facilitation guide for the instructors and a participation guide for the students. The facilitation guide is useful for the instructor by taking the instructor through the lesson step by step, preparing them with the right tools and resources, and ensuring that all of the objectives are met through the instruction. The participation guide is not always necessary, but can be helpful to the learners. In my project, I provided a participation guide that students could relate to a syllabus in a typical higher education course. It provides step-by-step instructions and resources that students will require during the lesson, along with some optional tools they can access if needed. Next is implementation. In this phase, the final product from the development phase is put to the test. The first test is called the beta test. During this test, the instructional design will be reviewed and tested by an actual audience. Everything in the instruction, the goals and objectives, the facilitation, the timing, and the effectiveness of the training itself is being tested. The beta test will prove that the instructional design is viable with a real audience. The next step, if it can be achieved, is the pilot test. During the pilot, the actual 3-hour lesson that has been delivered will be executed. It should be real trainers, real learners, and will be piloted in the same environment where the actual training will be conducted. The final step is creating an implementation review. The review will allow the participants to advise the instructional designer whether or not the lesson met its objectives. It will also provide feedback and suggestions for any changes needed for the actual deployment. Here are some of the questions I asked the students after the beta test and pilot. I asked some similar questions of the instructor and took their feedback and made some constructive changes to the instructional design. Finally, the evaluation phase. It seems like a final step in the process, but remember that this is a cyclical process, and evaluation is continuous throughout. The evaluation phase will help answer these questions. Is the instruction effective? Did the audience learn anything? Can the content created be applied in real-world situations? The results will come from all of the work accomplished by the audience. The instructional design can be assessed through the Kirkpatrick model of evaluation, which assesses the audience reaction, their learning, behavior, and the overall results. Considering the Kirkpatrick model of evaluation will help to make changes where they're needed to design an effective lesson. My project in creating an instructional design for training project management to data analytics students was successful overall. With the assistance of the students and instructors, I was able to make a few changes that added value to the lesson and made the presentation portion less burdensome and more effective for comprehending the lesson. The ADDIE model of instruction design helps to create effective and meaningful training designs. The cyclical process achieves continuous improvement throughout the process by using real and constructive feedback. Instructional designers can create learning lessons that get proven results.